Hello Halloween fans, I'm your host Douglas at Drownboy Productions, bringing you another Goosebumps related video. Viewer beware, you're in for a scare. Recently, we've been taking a look at quite a bit of Trick or Treat Studios products on the channel, and with that came the Trick or Treat Studios Haunted Mask. As a lifelong Goosebumps fan, I had to pick that up along with the rest of their Goosebumps catalog. Unfortunately, outside of the Haunted Mask, nothing else has arrived yet, but I do have some really cool Goosebump masks to share with you guys today. I'm sure many of you Goosebumps fans are well aware of the Trick or Treat Studios line and even the Spirit Halloween line, but did you know that there actually was a mask line produced way back in the day? And in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at that full lineup of masks. The first character we'll be taking a look at has never made an appearance on the big screen. He's only made an appearance in books and merchandise. I'm sure you hardcore Goosebumps fans already know who it is. That's right, we have the radical Goosebumps mascot himself, Curly the Skeleton. I'm sure a lot of you Goosebumps fans remember Curly. He was on a bunch of merchandise and I do believe he appeared on a few different book covers as well. This thing is such a radical sculpt. It is a great looking skull. Like if it was just the skull without the glasses and without the mohawk, this thing would be pretty badass. But with the added glasses and mohawk, it just makes him look really cool, even if you had no clue of like the Goosebumps affiliation. But with the affiliation, it makes him even cooler. If you take a look at him all the way around, you can see that the mohawk does turn into a ponytail in the back, and also he has the Splat Goosebumps logo on the back of the head. As for the paintwork on this, it's pretty awesome, but also pretty simple. The skull itself doesn't require a lot of work, so they just did some very basic shading on that. He's also got like these weird little black dots just kind of randomly added onto the sides of the head. I don't know what that's really about. But then they go in and hand paint the nose black, hand paint the glasses, paint blue for the lenses, and give them some nice little white streaks to make it look like it's a little bit reflective. It's very cartoonish, but it's to a very cool effect. Then for the hair itself, it looks like it's painted white, and then they just go in and airbrush a bunch of pink, which gives it a really, really cool effect. A pretty simple mask, but I also think outside of the Goosebumps affiliation, this one would be the best selling just as a Halloween mask. And if you guys do not know, all of these masks are cast in vinyl, so you don't have to worry about them rotting away. The only downside really to these is that they are child size. All three of these masks were made to fit children. They were not adult size. Unless you have a very, very tiny head, you're really not going to be able to fit one of these. That pretty much does it for Curly. Now let's take a look at something a little more horrific. This next item is actually the score that inspired me to go ahead and do this complete set. I've been wanting to get these for years and years, and unfortunately, throughout the past few years, they have kind of risen in price and they've become a little bit harder to find. Especially like really, really good copies. Most of them that you see out there were pretty well worn and loved by kids. Like Curly, he does have some yellow paint on the side of the face. There is a small rip on the side of the skull. Maybe an adult tried to put it on. So it's not an absolutely perfect copy. This, however, is some new old stock and it's tagged. Here we have the Horrorland Horror. Still tagged, new old stock, and it has the plastic insert inside to help it keep its shape. The best part about this is I paid just a little over retail for this thing, so it was not a crazy high price. And from what I've heard, the Horrorland Horror is the rarest mask in the trio. So to find one original tagged with the insert for such a cheap price, I couldn't pass it up. And after grabbing the one, I felt like, you know what, I may as well complete the set. Looking at the tags on these just makes that nostalgia come oozing back. It is so damn cool. I miss this style of Goosebumps packaging. It says, watch Goosebumps on Fox Kids Network, reading is a scream, vinyl overhead mask. It does not say child size, but I think in the original advertisement for it, it does list them as child size masks. And these were made by Disguise Inc. I don't know if I mentioned that yet, but yes, these are children's masks, produced in vinyl, made by Disguise, and licensed through Parachute Press. The back of the tag isn't anything too crazy, it just has some mask care. But yeah, this is pretty awesome. The Horrorland Horror is of course a really, really cool character. And of course there's more than one horror. So if you had several different kids and you wanted them to all go trick-or-treating as like a Goosebumps family thing, it would be reasonable to give them all horror masks. Or hey, if you watched the TV series and you wanted to pick it up just to have it as a collector, it is a pretty cool piece. This one could definitely use some reshaping, but overall it's a really, really cool sculpt. Unfortunately, incredibly small masks, so there's no way I could ever wear any of these, but still, really, really cool collector's pieces. It's got that Goosebumps splat on the back of the head too. And I think you all can see where this is heading. I've saved the best for last. My favorite out of the entire trio, though I do love them all. They're all great pieces, and I will love all the Trick or Treat Studios masks as well. This one is incredibly special. Here we have the original Haunted Mask. But not only do I have a nice copy here, this is a tag copy. These are incredibly hard to come across. You can find some Haunted Masks that will pop up here and there. Often they're damaged because kids wanted to wear them, or maybe they were too afraid to wear them. But very seldom do you see them tagged because kids wanted to wear them so often. So when they do pop up, they're usually pretty damn pricey. And I got this one for an absolute steal. Really, I guess this entire set, I paid very, very little for these. They were all great prices. And realistically, these masks, even if you're paying kind of like the higher market prices for them, aren't that expensive. So if you're a Goosebumps fan and collector and you want to start trying to grab this whole set, I recommend you start going after them. But yes, the Haunted Mask is of course my favorite. It's one of my favorite stories. I don't know if it's my favorite book, but it's probably my favorite episode of the TV show. And the mask is in absolutely great condition. Unfortunately, it was a little bit misshapen whenever I received it, which is why I currently have it stuffed. And it's still not perfectly shaped. It can probably use a little bit more work, but I have not done any heat treatment to this. Many people will just use a little bit of heat to reshape their vinyl masks, and that seems to be absolutely fine. None of those people have problems. Personally though, I've never done it. Nothing against it, I just haven't done it. So I just will typically stuff my masks until they kind of go back into the shape they're supposed to. It doesn't always work, but it can help quite a bit, especially if it's just going to be on display. Like, obviously, I'm never going to wear this mask because A, it would never fit me, B, it's tagged and I wouldn't want to damage that, and C, I might not get the fucking thing off. As for the details on the mask, though, the sculpt is pretty darn good. It's not screen accurate, but in many ways, I would consider it to be slightly better than the Trick or Treat Studios one. Mostly, I would say it's just like in the teeth area. The way that they sculpted these teeth looks a little bit better in person. It's more three-dimensional. But the way they painted them is a lot worse. As far as sculpture goes, the frayed neck is another thing that it's missing. It just has this smooth, kind of short-cut neck. That's a little bit disappointing, but overall, a vinyl copy of the Haunted Mask is something I'm really, really happy that they made back then, because this is something that, if taken care of properly, will outlive me. As for the paintwork, it's pretty basic. It has this one green tone, and then they did a little bit of black airbrushing over it, and that's basically it. The gums are a little bit like a darker pinkish color, and then the teeth, they did those yellow, but the way that they painted them is so weird. It looks like they wanted to give them more definition or make them look a little bit more realistic, but instead of doing like the distortions method of spraying the gum line a little bit darker to create some shadow effect, instead it's like dry brushed brown over it, and then all the lines in between the teeth are clean. You guys will see what I'm talking about in the close-ups, but that's the only thing paint-wise I just really don't know what the hell they were doing. But, you know, for children's masks, they're probably not going to complain too much, and for what they are and how much they used to cost, these things were great. If you can find these for a great price, I strongly recommend you pick them up if you're a Goosebumps fan. They will last you forever if stored properly. Don't go putting them on a styrofoam head now, but as long as you don't do that, or maybe leave it in direct sunlight, these things should be around for a very long time. And speaking of the Haunted Mask, for those of you who are still watching the video, I have a little special surprise for you. If you watched my recent Haunted Mask by Trick or Treat Studios review, you've already seen this surprise, but for those of you who haven't, I want to share it with you. As a lifelong Goosebumps fan, this is probably my favorite thing I own. I have a lot of really, really cool stuff in this collection, but this, just for nostalgia's sake, is probably my favorite. I have had Goosebumps books read to me since I was an infant. I learned how to read from Goosebumps. My grandmother would read these books and narrate them to me, and then teach me how to read while doing so. And Goosebumps has been one of my lifelong loves. I love all the merchandise, I love the movies. I actually got her to go see the newer movies in theaters with me, and I still have my childhood collection of all the books and little toys, and even I think a Beast from the East wall hanger. I kept all that stuff because of how important it is to me. Realistically, Goosebumps helped shape who I am today. And, specifically, this story probably helped shape even more of who I am today. Enough of my personal story. I know you all have your connections to Goosebumps as well, but I just wanted you all to understand this is very, very special to me, and I want you to understand why I'm putting the emphasis on how cool this is over everything else I own. Here I have for you some actual pieces of the screen-used Haunted Mask from the TV series. Not too long ago, I was messaged by the account LilSpawn2000 on Instagram, and he asked me if I would like some pieces of the screen-used Haunted Mask because he owns the real deal. And my reaction is what most people's reaction would be. Yeah, okay, sure. Yeah, you own the real deal. Let's see it. And then he sent me pictures of it, and holy shit, guys, it's real. It's unfortunately, though, rotting apart. It has not been well taken care of throughout the years. At one point, the studio kept it on a piano, I guess, in direct sunlight, and that really accelerated the degradation of the mask. By the way, I should note, in case you Goosebumps fans don't know, there are a few different versions of the Haunted Mask. The one that you see in the shop and like floating around is different from the one that you see Carly Beth wearing. That's kind of what we would call the transformation mask. There are some features that are changed, and overall the construction of the mask is different. This is from the actual The Mask. So the one that's sitting beside R.L. Stine at the beginning of the episode, the one that's in the shop, these are pieces of that mask. It's not too far gone like the original Michael Myers mask, but it's heading south pretty quickly. It unfortunately is not in great shape. I can't stress that enough, but it looks really, really cool. The way that it's rotted currently, it looks even creepier than it did in the show. But yeah, he offered to send me these pieces of it, and these were pieces that naturally fell off. I do not support like the swatch collecting or sample collecting prop community, really. Nothing against the people that want to collect those things, but I personally will not spend money on it because too often do you have people who acquire those pieces, different props, like a Freddy sweater or a Chucky sweater or something, and cut it into tiny pieces so that they can make more profit selling tons of people a tiny little piece of that history instead of selling one person that whole complete prop. This is not one of those situations, however, because this naturally fell off of the mask, and also I didn't pay for this. He just sent it as a gift, and for a gift, wow, one hell of a gift. I'll try to get it closer so you guys can see, but the thicker chunks up top came directly off of the neck, where the foam and latex was a lot thicker. These tiny little, like, crispy looking pieces here at the bottom, those came directly off of the cheek of the Haunted Mask. He actually sent me a picture from when he first received it, where you can see that paint is like peeling off and starting to flake off. And then he sent me a photo of it after he sent me these pieces, and you can see it fell off. He told me that piece eventually just went ahead and came off. Gravity was going to do that regardless. And I just appreciate that instead of just letting them sit there or throwing the pieces away, he sent them to me. Because it is something pretty minuscule, but to me, this is something so incredible nostalgia-wise. We have a lot of crazy stuff happen on this channel. And I know I say I never thought I would own this a lot. But if you would have told the kid with his grandmother watching Goosebumps that he would have a piece of the Haunted Mask one day, never would have believed it. That is absolutely insane to me. Unfortunately, I cannot share a photo of the Haunted Mask in its current state, but over on one of the movie prop groups on Facebook, he's supposed to be sharing photos of it soon. He initially was going to do it on his Instagram, LilSpawn2000, but I think he may have decided against that. Just in case, if you want to try and go follow him there, he may be posting it there. I don't know. Plans seem to be changing, but I'm excited for this to be shared with you all because it looks incredible. I really, really hope, though, that it gets proper preservation so it does not degrade and fall apart. Well, fall apart more than it already has. If you do want to see the mask in a somewhat recent state, when it was still owned by the prop master, you can go check out a video I'll be linking down below in the description. It's an older video, but there are a couple of pictures in there where you can see that actual mask, and I think he actually wears it in that video. Anyways, this has turned into a pretty long video. There's nothing left to do but give you guys some close-ups of these masks. They're absolutely great. If you love Goosebumps, I strongly suggest you go grab yourself a set. I love you all. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and see you next time.